Hey there everyone, it's Nina. Thanks for joining me today for a new video. Today I'm going to be revealing to you our Simon Says Stamp exclusive STAMPtember set with art impressions, which is apple cider. Just like all of our STAMPtember exclusive collaboration sets, this is a limited edition set. So if you love it, you're definitely going to want to grab it while you can. This set is available for a limited time only. So here is the apple cider stamp set. I love all of the fun imagery and the puns that go with. It's a really adorable set and perfect for fall birthday cards. I'm going to ink up the main image from the stamp set and stamp this into the center of my watercolor paper. I did stamp this a couple of times just to make sure that I got a good impression because it is a textured paper. There is a candle that is included in the stamp set and you could stamp it on top of the apple as I'm doing here. And please excuse the giant bandage on my finger. I accidentally cut my finger and it was a really big cut that was too big for a band-aid. So I had to put this giant bandage on, which was getting in my way when I was crafting. So please excuse that. In addition to the main image, there's also this really cute cider stamp that includes a couple of apples sitting next to the cup of cider. So I'm going to ink that up and stamp that next to the woman with her apples. Now that I have my images stamped, we're going to work on watercoloring. I love coloring art impressions images with a very loose style of watercolor. So how I do this is I just put a little bit of color down in an area and then I randomly kind of spread it out. And it's not going to be perfect. I let it be a little bit on the messier side and I let some of the white of the paper show through. You can see that really well on her pants. And what I like about this is that it's a very forgiving style of coloring. You don't have to feel like you need to color the image perfectly. So here where I'm coloring in some of the cider on the cup, you can see I didn't fill in that second color all the way, and that gives the image some, I think, really great interest. The other thing I like to do when I'm coloring an image like this is after a layer has dried, I'll go back in and add additional layers or colors. You can see here as I colored in the pants on the first layer, then I came back in with more of that blue and added a little bit more drops of color, which gave the pants a little bit more of a textured feel. The packaging of this stamp set is extremely helpful for helping you get a guide for what colors you want to color different parts of the image. I followed the guide on the packaging closely, but I did switch out some of the colors for things that I thought would be more appropriate for the card that I'm working on. And of course, when you color the candle, you definitely have to add a little bit of glow around it. I think that really accentuates and brings the image to life. Okay, and in addition to coloring in the image, I actually also colored a little area for her to stand on. So I'm coloring some grass and a little bit of dirt. Again, I'm doing that same textured watercoloring, so you can see I'm skipping in spots. I'm leaving some of those brush marks. This continues the style of the coloring that we did on the imagery into the ground as well. Everything now has a very cohesive look, and I also love adding some splatters. I picked up some different colors that I used throughout the painting, so some of the blue, a little bit of green, some of that orangish yellow color, and I splattered that across the background. Alright, once that dried, I brought in some distress inks. I'm going to ink blend a halo of color around this image. Starting with my lightest color first, I'm going to get that really close to the center of the paper where the image sits. I don't want to color over the image too much because I don't want to change the colors that I've already created here with my watercoloring, but I do want to soften that white area. So I did go in as close as I could, and then I started moving in with my darker colors. So this one happens to be Uncharted Mariner. And for all the colors that I'm using here, you can find them down in the video description, in addition to the STAMPtember Apple Cider exclusive stamp set. So be sure to check out the links below so that way you can find all of the products that we're using today. So I ink blended those colors with some Simon Says Stamp blending brushes, and then I splattered this with water so that I get those really cool splatters across the ink. The distress inks, of course, are water reactive, so they give me that really cool splattering effect. And because I wanted to soften that a little bit more so it wasn't so harsh, I came back in with more distress ink to darken up those areas and soften that beautiful splattering. So it gives that texture, but it's not as intense, and it doesn't take away from the focus of this beautiful imagery we have in the middle. So here's my background. It's a little bit smaller than an A2 card, so it was perfect to put on top of this Nina Desert Storm card base, which really lends to that fall color palette. And then I'm going to tie a bit of twine across the top. Because this is a top folding card, it's really easy to do. It's not going to tie the card closed, and you don't have to cut any slits into, say, the side of the card where the fold is. And I just tied that into a simple little bow. And to embellish it and add a little bit of texture, I did decide to add a button onto this. I think buttons are such a fun way to add an unexpected little embellishment, and I thought orange would go really well. It'll pull out some of those orange colors that I included in the project. At first I thought of doing red, but I felt like that would be too much. It was going to take away from the imagery, and especially since I used red on her shoes and some of the main apples, I really thought the orange would go best. I did pick out some soft navy cardstock from Simon Says Stamp and one of those fun greetings that are included in the apple cider stamp set. I'm going to ink it up with embossing ink and then stamp that down onto my paper. I did prep the surface with our Simon Says Stamp powder tool. And then to emboss this, I used our Simon Says Stamp cream embossing powder. It's nice and soft, not as bright as white, and goes really well with the color palette that we're using here. I always like to emboss on the back of the paper first before coming over to the front. Helps emboss this a little bit quicker, and you have less of a chance of over embossing the sentiment. I did fussy cut this out. There are no dies for this set. This is just a stamp set. And then to attach my greeting, I am going to use some foam tape. And I'll stick that down over by her arm where it balances really nicely with the imagery on the card. To add a little bit of interest here, I did put some sparkle on certain areas. I especially wanted it on the glow of the candle. Makes the candle stand out a little bit. It's a little hard to tell on camera, but in person it gives a really nice little glow. And then I also colored some of the apples, the apple cider itself, and even her shoes. So there we have it. You can see that sparkle here and there as I tilt this in the light. I just think this is the most adorable fall birthday card. If you have somebody in your life that has a fall birthday, this is a stamp set that I think you're going to really enjoy creating with and sending to that special someone for the occasion. I hope you were inspired by this card project using our Simon Says Stamp STAMPtember 2023 exclusive with art impressions called Apple Cider. Don't forget, you can find links below in the video description to the stamp set as well as all the other products used. Thanks again for watching and have an absolutely wonderful day.